The sun blazed mercilessly over Redemption Gulch, a lawless speck of dust and despair nestled in the shadow of the Rockies, where the wind carried the scent of sweat, whiskey, and unwashed ambition. The town square buzzed with a cruel energy, a crowd of leering men and cackling women gathered around a rickety wooden platform, their jeers rising like a storm. At its center stood Elara Kane, a wisp of a woman with hollow cheeks and eyes that once held dreams, now dulled by hunger and fear. Her tattered dress clung to her frail frame, wrists bound with coarse rope, and a gag silenced her protests as Jedediah, Jed, Carver, the town's self-crowned tyrant, paraded her like a trophy of his dominance. Orphaned at 16 when a raid claimed her settler family, Elara had survived by scavenging until Carver's men dragged her from a burnt-out barn, claiming her as spoils. "Look at this stray!" Jed bellowed, his voice a whip crack, yanking her chain to force her to her knees. "Who'll bid for her services?" Laughter erupted, coins jangling, but Elara's spirit, though battered, flickered with defiance, until a rock struck her temple, drawing blood. She expected death or worse, her fate sealed by the mob's glee. Then, silence fell, heavy as a shroud, as a lone figure emerged from the crowd, Silas Blackwood, a quiet rancher known for his solitude, his weathered hat tipped low over steel-gray eyes. "Enough," he said, voice low but cutting through the noise like a blade. The crowd stilled, curiosity and tension coiling. Who was this man to challenge Jed? Silas stepped onto the platform, his boots deliberate, each step a statement. At 40, he carried the scars of a life hard-lived, lines etched by sun and loss, hands calloused from years tending cattle alone since his wife, Margaret, died in childbirth a decade past. Jed sneered, pistol gleaming at his hip. "You got a death wish, Blackwood? She's mine by right." Silas didn't flinch, meeting Jed's glare with a calm that unnerved the bully. "No one owns a soul here. I'll take her off your hands, for a fair wage." The crowd murmured, suspense thickening. Would Jed back down or draw? "Twist," Jed laughed, a harsh bark, and tossed the rope at Silas. "Fine. $10. She's your problem now." Silas paid from a worn pouch, his hand steady, and cut Elara's bonds, lifting her gently as the mob dispersed, muttering. Her eyes, wide with shock, searched his face. Was this rescue or another trap? Inside Silas's modest ranch house, miles from town, the air smelled of pine and leather, a stark contrast to the squalor of Redemption Gulch. Elara sat by the hearth, a blanket draped over her shoulders, her wound cleaned with a tenderness that startled her. "Why?" she whispered, voice hoarse from disuse. Silas stoked the fire, avoiding her gaze. "Ain't right, what they did. You're free now." But freedom felt foreign, her trust shattered by months of survival. She'd been 17 when raiders struck, killing her parents and brother, leaving her to fend in a world that devoured the weak. Silas offered bread and broth, his silence a comfort, but suspense lingered. Would Jed come for her? That night, hoofbeats echoed outside, and Silas grabbed his rifle, peering through the window. False alarm, a deer, but the tension remained, a shadow over their fragile truce. Days turned to weeks, Elara's strength returning as she helped with chores, milking goats, mending fences. Silas taught her to ride, his gruff instructions softening into shared laughter when she toppled from a mare. Love wasn't the plan, but it crept in, her gratitude in a shy smile, his protectiveness as he adjusted her saddle. One evening, as stars pierced the velvet sky, she asked about Margaret. Silas's face darkened. "Lost her and the babe. Been alone since." Elara touched his hand, her own loss, family, home, mirroring his. "You're not alone now." The admission hung, warm as the fire, but a rustle in the brush outside jolted them. Suspense built. Jed's men? Silas checked, finding only wind-tossed branches, but the threat loomed. Jed's shadow grew. Townsfolk whispered of his rage at losing Elara, his men scouting Silas's land. One day, a letter slipped under the door, Jed scrawled demanding her return or fire. "He'll burn us out," Elara said, fear creeping back. Silas's jaw tightened. "Not if I stop him." Twist, he rode to town, confronting Jed in the saloon, a crowd gathering. "She's under my care. Touch her, and you'll answer to me." Jed drew, but Silas was faster, disarming him with a swift move honed by ranch work. The crowd cheered, Jed humiliated, but his eyes promised revenge. Back at the ranch, Elara threw herself into his arms, tears mixing with relief. "You risked everything. For you," he murmured, their first kiss sealing a bond born. Love deepened, a quiet strength against the frontier's harshness. Elara learned to shoot, her aim steadying with Silas's guidance, while he found joy in her garden plots, coaxing life from arid soil. But suspense shadowed their peace. Jed's men raided a barn, torching hay, a warning shot. Silas tracked them, finding a camp with maps marking his land for seizure. "He wants my water rights," Silas told Elara, fury lacing his voice. They fortified the ranch, stacking sandbags, but the next attack came swift, gunfire at dawn, bullets pinging off the house. Elara returned fire, her shots driving Jed's men back, but Silas took a graze to the leg. Twist, as they bandaged him, a rider approached, not an enemy, but Sheriff Amos Tate, badge glinting. "Jed's gone too far. I've got warrants. You're safe." Relief washed over them, but Tate's grim look hinted